That's according to the Inspector General of Police. And federal government and state MDAs in 115 billion naira tax default. That's on page 33. It's a bit curious. This is coming from the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. I mean, that's ordinarily ascertaining tax liabilities will be the business of the FIRS. So, but yes, but this is the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation Fiscal Commission that is indicating the tax default of the tiers of government and their MDAs to the tune of 115 billion. That's going to result in another round of deductions. All right. Now, I met only 4.6 million naira in NEMA coffers. That's attributed to the DG. That's on page 8 in greater detail. Now, the lead story, of course, is very busy with a number of riders as it deals with the constitutional review, which is the kicker. Senate okays 4-year single tenure for president and governors. And CX stands for the State Independent Electoral Commission's face extinction. And OK's autonomy, that's the Senate OK's autonomy for local governments and state legislature. Attorney General and Justice Minister now separate. Removal of Land Use Act fails and ratifies independent candidacy. Devolution of powers suffers setback and tinkers with NJC composition. NJC stands for the National Judicial Council, headed usually by the Chief Justice. Only God and rule of law can give us Biafra, not Kano. That's according to IPOP. And finally, Oshibajo swears in Kogi and Gombe ministers, page 40. Bayo.
Yes, Kriyan, you were talking about immunity. But presently, the Constitution provides immunity for the chief executives, the president and the governors in the state, and I think their deputies. Now, the members of the National Assembly are proposing immunity for themselves. But all these serious amendments that are proposed are part of the process of the constitutional amendment. It is subject to concurrence with the House of Rep and also approval of the states, 36 states House of Assembly before it becomes law. But meanwhile, the Inspector General of Police has lamented that local use along Abuja, Kaduna and Zaria Highway are responsible for the kidnappings that is going on there. He has also lamented that stringent punishment has to be imposed for kidnappers to check the menace. He laments that we have not seen where kidnap suspects have been convicted and jailed. Meanwhile, some kidnap suspects enjoy freedom more than law-abiding citizens. The Inspector General of Police draws an example with the Nigerian Republic, where he says that people who are convicted for crimes like kidnapping are given expeditious trial to check the menace of that. Meanwhile, the Inspector General of Police has directed that area commanders, divisional police officers, inspectors, and others serving in the police division along the Abuja, Kaduna, Zaria Highway should all be redeployed. New officers will take their place with new, fresh ideas to challenge the impetuses of kidnapping that is becoming a menace on that highway. The other story, Kirian, you read about civil servants, the PAMSEC sitting examination. There were 300 of them that sat for the examination. 222 failed, 78 passed. And guess what? Of the 78 that passed, they are to sit oral interview today for 20 positions. There are 21 permanent secretary positions available, and they will be picked based on the states that the permanent secretaries come from.
200 people failed.
222.
Yeah, well, is it right to say that they failed or that they didn't scale the first hurdle?
Well, there were two hurdles, in fact. There were two levels of exams. The third one is now the oral. And this decision was reached as the National Council of Establishment, July last year, that permanent secretaries will undertake these exams before they move on.
But let me take you back to the issue of immunity, being proposed by the Senate. Now, does it mean now that all legislators, if all legislators in Nigeria have immunity?
It is an idea that they have proposed. Let's see how that will go through at the House of Rep and also the 36 legislative houses around the country.
There are assembly members. And what do you think you can?
Already, a legislature in any state assembly or national assembly enjoys qualified, absolute privilege, in fact, on anything he says on the floor of the House relating to lawmaking and even in committees.
So I don't understand the purpose of this extensive immunity that lawmakers are now being granted, by way of constitutional amendment. We know the parliamentary practice.
Yes.
It's there. It's
universal.
Yes, it's universal. There's nothing that, well, of course, these are matters that will be taken up at an appropriate time. Just to indicate the issue we're talking about, directors failing exams. I mean, it will be a bit awkward in terms of staff discipline and morale if you were to go back to your office and then, your staff will be saying, the director that failed the exam the other day, and so on and so forth.
Can I draw attention to something else? United Kingdom is to ban the production of petrol and diesel car by the year 2040. That is 23 years from now.
Sale as well.
Yes.
Not just production, there's a sale. That's from 2040.
All right, let's just go through leadership, very shortly.
All right. So, Kyria, I doubt if we'll have enough time to do that. Return to leadership. Bayo, thanks a lot for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
There are a number of matters arising from the stories we've taken this morning. It's Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. We'll take a short break now. When we return, of course, we'll be dealing with our principal item for discussion.
Oh boy, climb this thing now. Not be only to connect lights.
Come you and yourself now.
Now wow. Oh boy, calm down now. Oga Kasali electrician who will they look for with this? Oh, Oga Kasali, come help us fix this wire now.
Sorry, I no longer carry out illegal connection. It puts the lives of people at risk and can cause fire outbreak and disrupt power supply. I will never be part of anything that has to do with this any longer because change begins with me.
Oh boy, letting him talk makes sense. Oh boy, no could carry this ladder for me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
I'm downloading is on 95%. It's still on. Eh?
Introducing Airtel Unlimited Data Plans. Get Unlimited 10 for 10,000 naira. Get Unlimited 15 for 15,000 naira. And Unlimited 20 for 20,000 naira. Unlimited data. Unlimited you.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
You're still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the NTA network service. And our subject of conversation this morning is an empowering youth for political inclusiveness. But before we introduce our guests on the program this morning, we'll take this background report by Oyemi Ajayi.
Statistically, 1.65% of parliamentarians around the world are in their 20s, while 11.87% are in their 30s, and the average age of parliamentarians globally is 53. These statistics have been a source of concern to the youths who kept asking when the baton of leadership will be relinquished to them. Though some developed countries have embraced this reality of giving the youths the chance to contribute their quota, but a lot of other countries, especially in Africa, still have septuagenarian as their leaders. As part of efforts to foster youth political participation, the United Nations have spearheaded different conventions including the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the World Programme of Action for the Youths, and the Convention of the Rights of the Child to emphasize young people's right to participate in political processes. Children are the leaders of tomorrow has been an age-long cliché in Africa, even as a nursery rhyme, but it has remained a dream. In Nigeria, for example, the leaders of yesteryears are the same leaders of today and are still holding on to the mandate of leading the country to the promised land of the future. But the question is, where is indeed the promised land, and when will the youths of today have a say and dominance in the political atmosphere? Some older politicians have said it is not yet ripe for the youths to take the center stage of decision-making in the country, but the youths have persistently asked about when the time will truly be ripe. The youths have, however, taken it further by pushing the Not Too Young to Run bill before the National Assembly. They have proposed that the age limit of contesting the National Assembly should be between 25 to 30 years, while the presidency and the governorship candidacy be between 30 to 40 years of age. It is believed that with these, more youths can find their ways into politics and inject fresh views and perception into Nigerian politics. But questions about this is whether it is just allowing more youths into critical decision-making positions or what they have to offer. Are the youths truly ready for the roles they are clamoring for? And are the older politicians ready to leave the political scene? Guest on Good Morning Nigeria will be answering these questions shortly.
All right, thank you very much, Yemi Ajayi, for that background report. Now we have guests with us on the studios to discuss this subject matter. And one of our guests is also a familiar face on Good Morning Nigeria. He is the Chief Whip of the House of Representatives, Honorable Al-Hassan Ado Doguwa. Of course, is a veteran, as it were, and a ranking member in the House of Reps. And he was also there in the House of Representatives during the ill-fated Third Republic that collapsed following the crisis arising from June 12 crisis. Now, the June 12 issue. Now, Honorable Ado Doguwa, pleasure to have you join us on the program this morning.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be on this program this morning.
All right. And then we also have with us in the studios a strategy team member, not too young to run. That's Chioma Chuka. Ms. Chioma Chuka, a pleasure to have you join us on the program.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Okay.
And also we have another young person here, Ibrahim Farouk. He's a senior program officer of FIAGA. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Okay. Gentlemen, let's start by...
lady.
Gentlemen and lady, yes. You know, let's start by looking at what prompted the rally on Not Too Young to Run bill. Let's begin with the Honorable.
Yes.
What prompted the rally on the Too Young to Run bill? How did it all start?
I think coming from the obvious background, I think the youth in Nigeria, not only in Nigeria, the youth across the globe would have this kind of exuberance to really participate in the not only political and the legislative aspects of democracy, but the youth will always have this kind of exuberance to actually participate in whatever we do in nation building. So I want to believe no matter what prompted that, and no matter what made our people so agitated, the youth agitated to really yearn for this desire, I think is coming from an informed background. For me, I have always had that advantage, and I always proudly say it. I started as a very young man. I started unmarried, started below 30, into the House of Representatives. I could remember in 1992, my age was less than 30. So I think if there's anyone that will now be at the forefront, in the front banner, as a vanguard to secure this provision in the constitutional provision, Ado Doguwa should be one. I came into the floor of the House of Representatives, like I've always proudly said, with my NYC vest, fresh, straight from the NYC, from the newsroom of Borno Radio Television Corporation, where I served as a youth cover. I was able to get elected into the House of Representatives. My NYC vest was still fresh, and I was using it as my underwear. So I always want to be proud of that. And for that reason, I think, for whatever reason, the Constitution at a stage went the other way. And I believe we have now come to a stage where we must have to extend this opening for the youth generation in Nigeria, and that will also stand as a kind of lessons to even other countries, neighboring countries, especially in the continent of Africa, where in some cases, because of cultural reasons, age has continued to play a very major role. I want to say without any mincing words that it is the view of the House of Representatives and by extension the National Assembly to unbundle not only the political space, to unbundle virtually every sphere of life, human endeavor, for the youth to participate in. That is what we call absolute inclusiveness in virtually what we are doing. And most of these things are also covered under international charter. so many international protocols which Nigeria became signatory, have been promoting the issue of youth inclusiveness. And I want to assure people, especially people that are watching this program today, that it will, by God's grace, today it will be eventually Uhuru for the youth generation of Nigeria. In the process of the constitution review, when we started, I want to say I have been part of it right from day one till end. I'm a member of the Constitutional Review Committee in the House of Representatives, and a principal officer. I have also played key role in strategizing this aspiration of Nigerian youth. We have captured it successfully, and the Senate has concurred to that position. We have reduced virtually across the ladder 5 years in every age requirement.
All right, Honorable, let's stop you there and get the...
Honorable Ododokowa said he had the same NYSC vest 25 years ago when he came into the House. Congratulations one more time, but we hope you had your NYSC discharge certificate as well, not just the vest. Well, let's bring in Chioma and Ibrahim Farouk. I mean, you were in the forefront you were and still are in the forefront of the young persons who are seeking more political inclusiveness. Plus, of course, the rally that you have had, shall we say demonstrations, peaceful demonstrations, that you have inviting attention to the issue. What is the motivation for all of this? And how hopeful are you that there might be some positive response with regard to relevant constitutional or legal amendments?
To start with, I think I'm excited. I've been smiling throughout while the Honourable was speaking, because he said everything that's at the bottom of our hearts. Absolute inclusiveness. That's what we're all about. We believe that young people who make up 55.5% of the electorate should have a say, should be better represented, and we're not saying that we're not already represented. All we're saying is increase the pool, let the pool be a little more open for people to aspire to political office. And so I'm really excited. I mean, he started out his career in 1992. I don't even want to say how old I was at the time, but before he was 30, he had the opportunity, and he's built such a legacy being in the House of Representatives.
You were still in the prom at the time or something?
Let us not discuss my age, but I just really want to say that.
I'm sure she was born there.
Like I said, let's not discuss my age. But the thing that we need to discuss is what happened. Was the march on Tuesday, and it wasn't a demonstration. It wasn't a rally. What it was a solidarity walk, because we truly believe that the National Assembly is absolutely key in bringing our desires to life, like the Honourable said. And so we marched to the National Assembly to say we are standing with you, not against you. We're standing with you. And the Senate proved us right yesterday by passing overwhelmingly with 86 yeses, to the Not Too Young to Run bill. And we're absolutely convinced and confident that the House of Reps today will do that again. And, the Honourable has already said it, that by the end of today, it will be Uhuru.
Now, how can we describe the level of inclusiveness? By this I mean, what do the youths really want? Because there has been opportunities in the past, both politically and otherwise, where youths have played a great role, both in the academia and other sectors of human life. So when you talk about politics, it's as if youths are deliberately excluded from the system. And when you talk about followers of leaders of politics, they are the youths. So come in here.
Thank you very much. Let me just reiterate that what this is about inclusion and participation. Right from pre-independence, Nigeria's history has been a history of youth participation. Right to independence, after independence, even up to 1979. And the 1979 Constitution gave provision for young people to contest as candidates. Under the 1979 Constitution, you could contest for the House of Representatives at the age of 21. What we're saying is there's participation, there's inclusion, but it is limited, especially for young people as candidates. The framers of the 1999 Constitution decided to jack up the age for contesting elections and excluded young people from participating as contestants. There's participation in many other different spheres for young people. However, to participate as contestants, to have a seat at the decision-making table, young people have been conveniently excluded. What we're saying is let us just open up that space. We're not trying to chase anyone out of that space. We're saying let us just open up this space. Let us have some intergenerational dialogue some transfer of knowledge from very experienced legislators like Honorable Dogua, who have been there since 1992, and that succession from one generation to another pass across that knowledge that has been learned. Let us open up the space. Let us bring in the energy and the innovation of more young people into our political space.
Yeah. Fine, thanks. That's the point I also would like Choma to respond to. But when and if the political space gets to be expanded to accommodate the younger persons, who, of course, will have to go through the electoral process, will reach that level of discussion presently. What should the electorate and ultimately Nigerians expect from young people? How would you also address some of the concerns being expressed today about some of the behaviors we find of maladjusted young persons?
In every society, there is good and there is bad. In every society, there is competent and incompetent. What do we expect Nigerians to expect from young people? Excellence. We expect that opening up the pool, widening the pool for people to contest elective offices will allow brilliance to rise to the top. Nigerians are a very smart electorate, and they know when people mean well for them. And all we're saying is, we want to widen this pool. I'll keep saying that. We want to widen this pool. We want to make provision for more, for more innovation, for more energy, for more mental resources to come up so that people can make decisions based on the people who come up, to run for office. So what should Nigerians expect? They should expect brilliance. They should expect experience. They should expect that this is not, we're not asking that young people just be given the opportunity to vie for elective offices because we're plenty. No, we're saying, it's not a tokenist, effort. It's a let competent people rise to the top and let them be voted in, and let Nigeria move forward. Let's make Nigeria great again. I can't believe I'm saying that, but yeah.
All right, there are rules and regulations that guide some of these, things that we do, especially in politics. Because I want Honorable to come in here because he has had experience. He started as a young person, and we talk about, sponsorship, having the financial capacity, to run for a political position. For you to pick up a ticket in any party, you have to pay some money to pick up the ticket. Now, how many Nigerian youths, I have the capacity to do that? And I want to come to him because we don't know how he did his that got him to where he is at the moment. So, assuming you're advising Nigerian youths on how to go, because that's a big hurdle, before you can get to any sensitive political position.
I think getting to that point, I would like to say that may not be for the youth to answer and may not even be a call for the youth to really know how to go about it. I think the system has to go a little further to make sure that there could be some concessions made for the youth to really be accommodated in the political space. Because when you allow them the legislation, you allow them the legislative right, or the rule does not stop them, you also have to go beyond that stage to really create a platform where this legislation will favorably work in their own favor. I want to say, for instance, by Electoral Act, there are certain laws, there are certain rules and regulations that may not necessarily be captured in the main constitution, but they are in the Electoral Acts. For instance, the party politics, internal party politics. Take, for instance, the issue of women in politics. In most cases, in virtually most of the political parties, you find a situation whereby at the level of the political party administration, forms are granted to women free. So these are some of the bylaws, legislations that I want to believe the system still owes the youth of this country to go a little further so that they can have that kind of opportunity. One thing that you cannot doubt is the fact that we must have to succeed in doing that from head to toe. We have to do it from head to toe. When you just get, for instance, you are giving them out the right to contest at 25 or at 35, for instance, in the case of the president, and in each every other case that we have reduced the age. It's not enough for the youth to really participate actively in the political process of the country. Certainly, you have to go beyond that level and create an enabling environment, and bundle also some bylaws at the level of the party system. Because the fact remains that, whether you like it or not, that kind of human usefulness, that kind of exuberance, the ego to serve your country, Nigeria, is much, much more found in the youth generation than any other generation. I can share this experience with you also. When I came into the House of Representatives, as fresh as I was not married, I had nothing. My wife was Nigeria. Nigeria as a nation was my wife. my father was still Nigerian. I looked at the country first before every other thing. That has also given me a lot of space to always identify by what is most wholesome for the development of my country and for the benefit of my people. I want to tell you, in those days when there was this June 12 crisis, I'm sorry to say this, it's on the records, the whole of the region of the North, at a point, even though we elected Abiola as president, but at a point when there were needs for reconciliations, the whole of the North went against persistence in really actualizing June 12. But I did not. I continued because I felt June 12 was a mandate that had to be protected. And I continued as a June 12 agitator. At a point, when I was later married, about the time we were closing the session, when I was married, my first daughter was named Kudrat, because of my commitment to actualize the mandate of June 12. I was so attached to it, because you have that usefulness. You don't have much to care for yourself. I only hope that Nigerian youth, when they are given this opportunity, they will also operate with this kind of patriotism, this kind of commitment to their fatherland, Nigeria, and that will also help us to a very greater extent. And maybe getting back to the question he asked, is that
the youth. Honorable Dogowa, just a minute. You've raised some very pertinent issues arising from your personal experience.
Yes.
The issue of patriotism, which was the latter part you talked about, and the fact that you also hope that going forward, there will be bylaws or regulations within the political mechanism to ensure that the young persons are not merely given on paper, the opportunity to contest for elective offices. But I want to ask, our other guests who are in the studios, do we run the risk of what I may loosely refer to as escalating affirmative action on the basis of the proposition by Honorable Ado Dogowa? Namely, you have now the constitutional and legal guarantees that as a young person, age 28, 25, in fact, no age limit whatsoever, you run. But at some point, you say, this is a special interest group. Give them funds for free. There are also independent candidates, by the way. Give them funds for free. No, let them pay half the rate for advertising, all the usual cost. Some other special interest groups could also come up. Do we run the risk of having to clutter the political space with escalating affirmative action? Chairman and then Ibrahim.
No, I don't think we run that risk. The truth is that Nigeria is on a journey, and I really identify with what the Chief Whip said when he said he became Nigeria. We are all Nigeria, to be honest. We don't have any other place to go. Nigeria is a country that's on a journey. Our democracy is on a journey, and so far I think that we're doing well. And so I think that as we go, so I'm Christian, and there's a place in the Bible that says line upon line, precept upon precept. Let's get this out of the way, and then we will deal with the next issues as they arise. What's chief on our minds right now is the passage of the Not Too Young to Run bill by the House of Representatives today, and then we go and get 24 state houses of assembly, and then back to the president for assent. Youth are ready. Youth are ready. Youth have taken the time to work in themselves. Youth across the country are very ready to contribute to nation building, just like the Chief Whip said. And so I don't see a risk of affirmative action being abused. I see it as leveling spaces. I don't see it as equality. I see it as equity. And when we find that there are gaps that our politics and our constitution needs to fill, then the constitution will fill them. But for now, all we're saying is, House of Representatives, we're counting on you. Do this for us. Do this for yourselves. Go down in history as the National Assembly that gave power to the youth to contribute to nation building.
Brian.
Thank you very much. I think I should also reiterate that one of the principles of a democracy is representation, and it is representation for all groups and for all interests. And I don't think the space is going to be cluttered. Ultimately, it is the choice of the electorate for who you want to represent you. What we're saying is, why don't we have different interest groups put themselves forward? Young, old, male, female, persons with disabilities, persons with ability, and the choice is for the electorate. Let us just ensure that we have a more competitive process that eventually deepens our democracy. As we were speaking outside, we said the House of Representatives are the true representatives of the people. And the House of Representatives has an opportunity to write its name in history, to write its name in gold, that they represent the interests of over 60% of the population. As they go to vote today on the constitutional amendments, we just need 240 votes, which is two-thirds majority. And the House of Representatives represents our interests. We're coming and we're saying, you are our representatives, you have been elected to go and represent us. We came out as young people en masse in 2015 to vote for members of the House of Representatives, to vote for members of the Senate, to vote for elected officials as well. We were out in the rain again 2 days ago to say we stand with the House of Representatives, we stand with the Senate, we understand that you are the People's Assembly. We were not there to protest. We're there to say we are here in solidarity, and we support you. No, we're not lobbying. We're not lobbying the House of Representatives. We're just saying that we have come to reaffirm.
Yes, Ibrahim, just a second. Yes, you answered that first part of my question, Kieran. I was wondering that the other issue that Honorable Adodogowa raised, which has to do with the patriotic zeal and fire that you find in young persons. Of course, by the time you settle down and you start raising your family, you start, of course, getting into, you get more settled.
You forget your marriage with Nigeria.
You forget your marriage, as he says, your marriage with Nigeria. That's a very valid point. I mean, some persons would argue that he has raised. So, if young persons had the opportunity of getting into the expanded space, what, again, should we expect with regard to the Nigerian project? Choma again and Ibrahim.
The Nigerian project, and I'm going to refer again, I feel like on some levels we didn't need to be here because the chief whip is saying our hearts, he's speaking our minds. And he said something about when he got into the House, when he got into the National Assembly in 1992, he was married to Nigeria. I believe very strongly that he's still married to Nigeria. Otherwise, he would have left. The truth is, if you look at Nigeria, sometimes the problems are enormous. The problems are gargantuan, and there's so many, you don't know which ones to pick at. But he's still here. He's still married to the Nigerian project. In the same way, young people across the length and breadth of this country are every day championing innovation, are every day working to bypass, the problems of things like power, things like healthcare, things like infrastructure, to contribute to the Nigeria project, because the truth is we are Nigeria. I think it's a state of mind rather than a state of affairs. Whether you are married or you're not married, if Nigeria is a state of mind, is your state of mind, and I believe that in the same way that it is for the chief, for the chief whip of the House of Representatives, it is for us.
Drill this down to specifics. Let's look at what are the issues bothering the Nigerian project or hampering the Nigerian project. Just take one, and then let's see, how the Nigerian youth might respond, Ibrahim.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I like these kind of questions because it gives us an example to showcase young people that are doing great things. And in Anambra,
better answer it well, because some directors have been failing PAPSEC exams.
In Anambra State, for example, we have a young commissioner who is just 31 years of age, who is the commissioner for budget and investment. And he's the young man who is responsible for one of the highest internally generated revenues of the state in Nigeria. That is the kind of innovation, the kind of energy, the kind of creativity, the kind of critical thinking that we have young men and young women that can bring into the space. And like we keep on saying over and over and over again, we need both the wisdom of the young and the energy and the intellect of the energy of the wisdom of the old and the energy and the intellect of the young. And let us bring it together in this melting pot that we call Nigeria. This is the only country that all of us can claim. And the decisions that we take now are decisions that are going to affect younger people for a longer period of time. It is very important. It is also a democratic principle that all interests are represented at the decision-making table. The decisions that are made today are going to resonate for years and years and years to come. So we're taking decisions that are going to currently affect 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds for the next 50 years, and they are not there on the decision-making table.
See, most Nigerians were very happy with you when you mentioned about the commissioner in Anambra State, who is 31. We also have the current president of France, who is also a
Macron.
So I'm trying to drive the point that youth have not actually been negated, in the entire political sphere, sincerely speaking. That's why I came to the specifics of funding your movement. You don't just, if you get a waiver as a youth, is that how politics should be played? If the party says this is what stands, it holds. Whether you're a youth or whether you are a full-fledged, a matured man or a youth, as the case may be. So the important thing here is if you get this bill passed, what next? Where are you going to begin? Can you fund yourself? How many youths can do that and fix themselves? You don't need to ask for any waiver. You can pull yourself through. That was what the Francis president did, and he won. So now, politics is a game of number, you know, and he says who gets what, when, and how. There's no negotiation as to because you're a youth, come and take this position. And again, how ready are Nigerian youths? Well, you may be ready as one of them, but how many, majority, are they well cooked? Are they well prepared to champion the cause of political, administration? So my question is this, gentleman and lady, just to both of you, if this bill gets passed, and is a go-ahead for younger generation of Nigeria to participate, now how would you get that done?
Simple way I'm going to answer this question is the fact that technology provides a lot of opportunities for people to do things they hitherto wouldn't be able to do. And I'm going to use a few examples. I have a few friends. One of them is called Ian Aboyeji. Ian looked at a problem in Nigeria, which was there are not enough young people who are working in technology spaces. We were dangling between a recession, and they set up something called Andela, which trains people to a certain capacity as far as technology is concerned, and then recruits them remotely to companies across the world. And so young people started earning forex in Nigeria. There's a lady I know, her name is Temi Giwa. Temi saw a problem as far as blood supply in Nigeria was concerned, and what did she do? She set up an independent blood bank. As far as funding is concerned, if we have people who are working on blood banks, independent of government, if we have people who are leading innovation and education across the country, what's funding? The truth is, I mean, there are several means for people to raise funding these days. There's so many means people are raising money. Young people are. There was a recent case, I think it was late last year, somebody needed some money to run some surgery in a very dire situation. Nigerians, in the middle of a recession, raised over $20,000 in about 24 hours.
All right.
And so, just to wrap that up,
yes.
Funding is not an issue. What is the issue? The thing that's the issue is the state of mind, is the willpower, and that's what young people have, and that's what they're bringing to the table.
At the time that Honorable Adodoguwa 25 years ago, the country wasn't exactly the way it is today. There is, you're familiar with all of this, a socialization process. You have a number of active youth groups. The pre-independence period we talked about, the Nigerian youth movement, it was one of the very active ones. You have had youth training centers in this country. There's one somewhere around Jos, I believe. And then you also had active student unionism, from which Adodoguwa, obviously, and others also benefited, because you had students, who could be galvanized, who could be mobilized, and who could also get issues on the national agenda. But some persons would say, we haven't seen that in recent years. So, what is there? I asked the question earlier about maladjusted young persons. Some young persons you speak to, and they're telling you that they are hopeless about Nigeria. So, on the one hand, you have the legal instrument, the constitutional empowerment, say young persons can get into the political space. But how easy or how challenging might it then be to galvanize your like, to get in for the purposes of doing that which is patriotic, nationalistic, and then conduces to the growth and development of the country? Brian.
Thank you. I think recently, especially on the Not Too Young to Run campaign, we've seen how young people have shown interest in the political and electoral processes. Issues of constitution review never used to be issues that young people paid a lot of interest to. Now we are more able to galvanize and mobilize young people to be interested in these processes, to participate, to engage with elected officials as well. While we agree that, yes, some young people are, and to use the term loosely, maladjusted, we also have a lot of young people that are well-informed, that are competent, that are credible, and that are able to participate and participate very well. And we are glad that one of the proposals in the current constitutional amendment is independent candidacy, and that greatly reduces the cost of running for elections for young people. We're also glad that there are some electoral amendments that are looking more critically at political party financing. And we know that young people are going to take advantage of these opportunities and participate. It might not be that would see a young person contest for president in 2019, but as we see more and more young people participate, maybe at the state levels, and gain that experience that many times is used against young people and you do not have experience to participate. But experience is gotten when you are in the system and you begin to participate. I believe that from 2019, and I'm confident that when the House of Reps passes the amendment, and I say when, not if, when the House of Reps, when 240 members of the House of Reps vote yes, we're going to see more young people.
Sorry, Ibrahim, are you seeking to build all of this from the roof? Or you're seeking to construct from the foundation?
Well,
I'm asking this question advisedly. I'm making this preface advisedly. You're saying from 2019. 2019, we're going to have the general elections.
Yes, sir.
Most governorship election, National Assembly, and presidential election. The local government elections take place when state governments feel that they should take place. Yeah. What do you know at the moment about the performance of the local governments in Nigeria, bearing in mind that a number of the councillors and even chairmen are young persons?
Many of them are young persons.
Yes.
Yes.
So
both yourself and Chairman.
And I'm glad that you said it's at the state level and it is laws that are made by the states. And however, the local government administration has been very topsy-turvy in the way things that have gone. And maybe it is due to the lack of autonomy for local governments. And we know that many times state executives are able to dissolve local government councils at will when and how they feel. And many times it is hard to track the performance of young people. However, the offices that are in the Constitution is what we are focused on right now, because our advocacy to states cannot be carried out the same way that we are carrying out this advocacy.
No, local government, I'm sorry to interject, Mr. Ibrahim Farouk. Look, I'm sorry. Go to Section 7 of the 1999 Constitution, which guarantees, democratically elected local governments. It's not every office that will be spread out. A local government has a structure, and of course you now have state laws. So what we are saying is, could this be an item? I said earlier advisedly, are you seeking to build from the roof, presidential election 2019, governorship election, or from the foundation? We have seen, for instance, how issues that ordinarily should bother local governments have been left in abeyance. Is this a matter that can engage the youths and say, look, let's drive our development, let's drive our growth from the foundation? Excuse me, Chairman.
Even more than ever, young people, and actually, I'm going to stop there and start from another part of your question. You talked about if we're building from the roof. No, I think that over the last, starting from 2011, young people became even more interested in politics. First of all, there was apathy, which is where we kind of started from. Young people believing that whether we vote or not, whoever, parties have appointed or selected will get into power. And we came up to 2011, and it was the first time Nigeria officially, used technology to monitor its elections. And young people became involved. Young people became a lot more interested. We came up to 2015, parties, the government officially, even more so, took on technology, took on technological tools. Young people became even more interested. I had a few friends who ran for several offices, from governorship offices to local council, who ran in local council elections, state houses of representatives, state houses of assembly, federal house of representatives, etc. Coming up to 2019, even in the Lagos elections, I'm a World Economic Forum global shaper, and I know that a global shaper in Lagos ran for local council elections in Lagos, and he won. So young people are starting, it's like I said earlier, it's a journey. We've come from apathy, not even being interested, and then we become interested in voting, we've become interested in monitoring, and now we're interested in becoming a part of the process. It's a journey. You never know where, we know where this is going to end, which is a great Nigeria, which is the mindset which I keep talking about that we've come with. But it's a journey, and we must let that journey take natural progression.
Thank you very much indeed. You've spoken so well, you and Ibrahim, but the fact remains that we need to find out where we had a disconnect. We knew about the Namda Zikiwes, the Wolowos, the Tapabewas, and all that, you know, being younger people when they really took up the mantle of leadership of this country. Now, where did we get to a kind of disconnect, right? Is there any time that the youth were deliberately, negated, in the system?
I think, like you rightly said, is in part of your submissions, it's not as if the youth were negated all along. At least at the level of the local government administration, local government elections, like you rightly said, that space existed. At least a requirement for a chairmanship election remained between the range of 20-25 years. It had never changed. So it's not about negating them. And I also want to maybe speak to the youth that are here. The path remains the same. Nobody doubts the desirability of this agitation from our youth. Nobody doubts that. The National Assembly all along, including even the State Assembly that are yet maybe to come to, we are yet to get to them for concurrence. I believe majority of our members of the State Assemblies, Houses of Assembly, will be willing to really grant this opening. But the fact still remains that you still have a major challenge to face. The issues of bylaws and other subsidiary processes of elections are there. You need to go extra mile to still lobby and see how political parties can really accommodate some of you to be useful or to take advantage of this opening granted you in the Constitution. Let me also give you another example. The issue of continuity, especially in parliamentary democracy, continuity, I think is an advantage when we can unbundle the space for youth to participate. And I believe sincerely that part of the advantage I've taken all along is because I started as a young man, and as it is today, even on account of my health, from the date of commencement today, has continued to be in my favor, and I'm still active on the floor of the House of Representatives. Nobody has doubt about that. I'm continually taking the advantage of my people voting me into the elections. This is almost the 5th time in the House of Representatives. But my charge to you, and I repeat my charge to you, granted, this one is like history now. We will do it for you. And I believe the State House Assembly will grant that as well. My charge for the Nigerian youth is the fact that you must not only be taken by the overzealousness to participate in politics or to come to the House of Representatives or to become a president or become a governor. The charge remains that you must have to be prepared to assume national responsibility with all the sense of patriotism, dedication and commitment to your fatherland. That's the only way we can go and take advantage of this opening we're giving to you people.
All right, Honorable Ado Doguwa, thank you very much. Of course, Ibrahim Farouk and Chairman, and we hope also the viewers out there who are young persons and others who are sympathetic to this whole idea. Ibrahim Farouk, Senior Program Officer, IAGA, you've contributed brilliantly to our discussion this morning. We'd like to appreciate you for being here. We're going to bring in another guest to join in this conversation. It's not a particularly young person, but perhaps I'm sure the viewers out there will benefit from his contribution. Ibrahim Farouk, thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you very much for having us.
All right, so it's still Good Morning Nigeria reaching you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. It's a live program. We have tweets already. When we come back, we'll get a new guest, and then we'll also take some of your tweets.
Baby, please now.
School days are not for marrying. Marrying on campus in a marriage that is not a marriage.
Is she married? Which marriage?
An ill-timed union that breeds domestic violence, use, distractions, and heartbreak.
And if she graduates and leaves me here, I will take another wife.
You're what my father would call a rolling stone
Do not shoulder responsibilities of married life before it is time. Professor John Bull, Episode 2, Season 4, Campus Marriage.
Wetin be this now? Now you me choose your destiny.
Oh yeah, bring two.
Which one?
That one like your gaki leg and that one like Udo's forehead.
Over and out. Brought to you by Glow.
The largest data network, Glow Unlimited.
All right, you're welcome back. But if you just joined us, it's Good Morning Nigeria on the NTA. We've been joined now by another guest, the public affairs analyst, Mr. Jide Ojo. Jide Ojo, a pleasure to have you join us on the program this morning.
It's my pleasure too. Thanks for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
Okay, I hope you're not claiming to be a youth, by the way.
I'm a youth at that.
You've been a columnist for many years and been a public affairs analyst for many years. But just to indicate that, as we said before we went on that short break, there are tweets that have come in, and we'll begin taking the tweets now from Korea.
Yes, as many Nigerians are beginning to react to our conversation this morning, and we have from Dele Jackson Solomon, formulating and implementing national youth policies through a review of public governance frameworks for the youth policy and engagement is a must. Policies can drive or impede the well-being of youth. Many of these challenges faced actually arise from exclusive public governance arrangement.
Donatus Abo has the next tweet. So the problem with Nigeria is not really about age. Now we must first tackle the fundamental issue of bloated pay to National Assembly members.
Yes, and Opemi Yek says we must take our lobby to states now. Most of the yes at the National Assembly might become no at the state levels.
Sorry, Michael Omakoji, the passage of the bill Not Too Young to Run, which has just been passed at the Senate, has removed obstacle number 1.
Funsho Terminu, we need to get our youth busy and let them have sense of belonging. I support youth in politics.
All right, and then we have this from Festus Akimboyewa. It says Nigerian youth are active politically in universities, but old politicians exclude them from mainstream politics for selfish reasons.
And David Mike Terongwa says the bill is long overdue. The youth should be given the opportunity to contribute to nation building. Youth should join parties now.
Laban Biscuit Steven tweets, who will take over after the old ones are gone? There is no other time for the youth to run than now.
And then Change to Progress says law is good, but it will be on zero value if they don't join political parties, develop their professional skills, and make themselves available. And let's now bring in Jide Ojo properly into this conversation. You've listened to all members of this panel, all this while, and I would like to get a own contribution. What's your take on the issue of youth exclusiveness and all this issue of asking the National Assembly to create enabling environment for effective youth participation in politics?
Thank you for that question. You see, I am more for youth inclusiveness or youth participation, or the inclusiveness, general inclusiveness of all the critical stakeholders in the electoral process, whether you're talking of youth, women, persons with disabilities, old people, young people. Everybody should be involved. Politics is about participation and representation. And interestingly, in the last 2 days, I've been involved at some level in building the capacity of youth, for participation and ultimately for representation. Because one thing is to have the space, the other is to make best use of the space you've given. As I was telling them at WFD, Westminster Foundation for Democracy, had a 2-day capacity building for Nigerian youth, for participation and representation. And in my session yesterday at Sheraton, I did say, here you are, even without the Not Too Young to Run, councillorship position, the age limit is 25. State House of Assembly is 30. Chairman of local government is 30. If you define the age of qualification for political office, the youth age as between 18 and 35, then you have these three positions that youth could effectively have made their own impact. But what did we see? Take a audit of all the over 800 State House of Assembly positions. How many of them are within that age bracket? Lagos State just had its own local government election over the weekend. How many of the councillors are within that age bracket? Of course, it's not a phenomenon that's peculiar to Nigeria, because from that conference we had, from that capacity building, we also have international resource persons who are able to share their thoughts with us. And they know that even in UK, 3 examples were given, only one out of them became a member of parliament at the age of 28. The other one was 31, the other one was 38. But be that as it may, and this is the parliament of over, how many? 200 or thereabouts. So what we are saying is that it's good to create more space, but you need to also give them the tools, the skill set, to be able to effectively utilize those positions. 2019 is around the corner. Whether we like it or not, it's less than 2 years. If you want to engage 2019 and you don't start now, it's too late. Honorable Dogo, I will tell you, before 2-3 years before elections, there are already permutations, they are already lobbying, they are already doing all manner of things to endear themselves to the communities where they want to vote. Is it scholarship you want to give to indigent students, or you want to build classrooms, or you want to provide boreholes? They do those things long before electioneering will even kickstart. But you won't know the mindset they had in doing those things. It's like a philanthropic gesture. But 6 months, 1 year to election, you see their posters coming out. And they say, oh, he's a very nice man. He's a nice woman. Do you know what? He's the one that provides the community with a pumping machine or with borehole and all of that. So what we are saying is the space is there. It's getting widened. We do hope. And I told them yesterday, Jide Ojo has no problem with creating better space. I cited the example of Uganda. In Uganda, I was privileged to observe the elections last year, February, during the general election. What they have is similar to what we have in Nigeria. They even have a quota. There are 5 categories of quota that's in the Ugandan constitution. The military has 10 reserve seats. Out of those 10, 2 are reserved for women. The youth has 5 slots reserved for them. Out of those slots, 1 is for a woman. A female. The workers' union has 5 seats. Out of those 5, 1 is reserved for female. The persons with disability has 5 seats. Out of those 5, 1. And they also made it so much that 1/3 of the parliamentary positions are reserved for women. So that is their own affirmative action to get women involved. And of course, to also get youth involved, they have that reserve seat or quota for their system.
Would you prescribe such for Nigeria?
Well, it's too late now. What Nigeria is getting out of this constitutional amendment is actually bigger than that, because 1, we have independent candidacy now, which means that you unless you don't want to run, once you meet the minimum age and you meet the set criteria as will be set by the Independent National Electoral Commission, you are free to run. So you don't have the excuse that, oh, the political parties shut me out, or because I don't have money.
Now, you mentioned the issue of skills, acquisition.
Yeah, skill sets.
Right, and you just had your empowerment program, as well, said. Was there any arrangement, by that gathering, with respect to building the capacity of the younger generation?
Exactly, that's what it's all about. 3 years now. They launched on Tuesday. Was the launch of the Youth Empowerment Program, which is a 3-year initiative of Westminster Foundation for Democracy. And yesterday was actually building the capacity of these youth leaders. And we have youths from Nigerian Youth Council, National Youth Council of Nigeria, from youth parliamentarians, from youth wing of political parties. All of them were gathered, about 60 or thereabout were gathered. And my session actually did with action planning. You need to plan. How do you get from point A to point B? How do you achieve your set objective, set an objective for yourself. In 6 months, in 1 year, this is what I want to achieve. Under which platform, in which manner. So that is part of the skill set we have given to them. And it's a continuum because, like I said, it's a 3-year program. And don't forget that other interventions are also coming in. National Democratic Institute for International Affairs is also encouraging youth to participate in the electoral process, although not necessarily in terms of representation and participation. But you also have Nigeria Women Trust Fund taking care of the women and the young female who wants to participate in the electoral process. So there are different dimensions of what is going on ahead of 2019. But this particular one by Westminster Foundation for Democracy is actually towards increasing youth participation and representation in politics. And it's a 3-year program. They are already building the capacity. There were shared experiences from the Labour Party and from the Conservative Party of UK. One of the people we had as resource person was actually Kate Osamo, who actually is a 2-time member of Parliament of UK under the Labour Party, who was able to share experiences with us and with the gathering on how she was able to get to where she is now.
All right, Jide Ojo, thank you very much. Of course, we'll come back to you just for us to return to the reactions from our viewers. Lasisi Taufik Taiwo has this tweet. The youth have a lot of energy and sound health, plus modern ideas required to rule a nation. Now, the youth should be given the opportunity to mingle with the elderly ones to run the country.
And from Nuruddin Owolabi, I'm not with the chief whip regarding age limitation for the youth, but we Nigerians are ego-driven, unlike our foreign counterparts who are humility-driven.
Austino, that's Edu Austin, has this tweet. Only the youth backed by godfathers will get access to the political space, if at all they are given the opportunity as it stands now.
And from Suleiman Idris, the law, that's the passing of the law, will not end the marginalization of youth, but it will help to open up the political opportunities.
And this is Mohammed A.T. A majority of youth want a quick way to make money and enjoy life, unlike how the chief whip started.
All right, and from Gilbert A.M., get the people informed. He said money is never a factor. Get the people informed. Let there be a clear vision of leadership. Then, with small money, we are there.
And then we have this from David Mike Terungwa. It says the youth at the local government and state levels should be involved in the not too young to run. It is too focused at the federal.
All right, Suleiman Idris once again says Chama Chika speaks very well on Good Morning Nigeria and advocates for Nigerian youth to participate in the next coming election. Already Chama has a fan out there.
Andoaka Veshima, we can convince students to vote for youth without giving them any kobo, and they will vote willingly.
And Mike Ayako, he says that the elderly ones have dominated the scene for so many years. This must be changed since the youths have many positive ideas to contribute.
Obiora Obeta tweets, they're not too young to run bill that just got a positive light in the Senate. It's a good step in the right direction. We must continue to push.
And Ostino says, in a country where there is no active birth registry, how do we know who are actually the young people?
Ogbu.
That's it. That's a good one.
How do we know the young people? I mean, some of us are young. Okay. Some of us are Ogbu. I mean, this is not the time when people used to falsify their age. Some of us are young at heart, like All right, this is the last one from Ogbu Andrew. Now, the youth should be given the space to venture into politics. It may make our country great again. Now, these are the tweets that we have for the second set. But now, in terms of real politics, as it's also indicated, Honorable Adodogowa, you've been in the field, veteran, 25 years, Third Republic, Fourth Republic. There's a phenomenon known as political lockup. Those who wield power, the plutocrats, those who already have the advantages, will be unwilling to yield almost immediately. And unless you have a battery ram, you can't get into that space. So you have the young persons who have this legal and constitutional empowerment, but they get there and they find that the barricades are much tougher than they had envisaged. What do we need to do? What should they have at the back of their minds, or what should be additional measures other than the affirmative stuff that we talked about to ensure that the political space, which is often locked up by already entrenched interests, is indeed freed open for all?
I think, like I rightly mentioned earlier on, it's all about their commitment, their readiness, their preparedness to really participate in the political system and every other sphere of life within the Nigerian economy or Nigerian democracy. For us in the National Assembly, and like I said, down the ladder to the Houses of Assembly, what we are doing now is not even yielding to the agitation of the youth. What we are doing is like a payback. A society or a democracy like our own, which has been predominantly a youth-dominated democracy, we have taken so much from the youth generation by way of being electorates and voting us into power. So the fact is that we are now yielding to them by way of like a payback, and that was why I said my charge on them is for them to have that readiness to participate, that commitment, that zeal. As long as they can sustain this commitment to serve, I believe no other thing will barricade or stop them from really getting to where they want to get. Actually, we may still have some cultural reasons, inhibitions, like in the case of a situation whereby, for instance, you've given them the legislation, go ahead, and somebody will now, after serving 3-4 terms in the House of Representatives or in the Senate, will now go back to begin to scheme for his own son to take over from him. That could be a lockup, yeah. And I want to believe that the youth, in their own ways and manner, will have to now walk extra mile to see how they can really strike against that possible lockup. But in a place like mine, I want to speak to the issue of money, which you have consistently cited here. This issue of money has not always been the major factor in the political space, especially in a place like my own. I come from Kano State proudly, and the kind of background, the kind of historical experience we have had in Kano politics, money has always not been the answer. I can tell you so many governors, without intention to insult any one of them, who got elected into the office of a governor without having 1 million naira. 1 million naira. With every respect, I want to cite the case of Malam Ibrahim Shekarau, who has been a teacher for quite long. And he got to the office of the governor on the merit of that profession, that service he had to the community. Teacher all along. He was a PAMSEC. At a point, they said he was sacked out of this office. He went back to the polls, wanted to be governor all of a sudden. He was never a councillor, never a local government chairman. So a situation whereby you could have somebody who could not readily provide 1 million naira in those days, in the last 8 or 12 years, and still became the governor of a very popular state like Kano. That means the factor, the money factor, has not always been very, very significant in the space. But agreed with you, I can agree with you, the fact that some of our cultural reasons, some of our traditional and social reasons could provide some bottlenecks for the youth. And I want to believe, like I said, if they could have that tenacity, that commitment, that zeal, that exuberance to really penetrate, there is nothing that cannot be possible for the youth of the Federation.
In fact, Honorable, you've spoken so well. Well, the money may not be a factor in where you come from,
yes.
But many Nigerians will tell you that in other parts of the country, money is it, because you need to fund your campaigns and all of that from place to place. Right. Now, invariably, Choma, it is not enough to get this law passed.
Yes.
There are so many hurdles,
A lot
of them, lock up, as Sinsley said, and what have you. Now, to what extent, would you say that corruption has contributed, to the relegation of the younger generation to the background with respect to politics?
I think that, and just to, before I take your question, I'm just going to respond to something he said and say that it's very important that we hear stories like this. I think that it's very important that stereotypes are destroyed as they come up. You don't let things fester. And so there's, the tweet from the young person who said that young people are looking for opportunities to make quick money. I'm just going to, debunk that right now and say that it's false. And I'm happy that the Honorable, the Chief Whip, debunked that as well in his response when he said, the former governor of Kano, Malam Shekarau, ran for office, people voted him because of what he could bring to the table, because of his track record of excellence. And so I think that we are slowly returning to a place of glory where money isn't everything. Are there people who are hungry? Yes. Are there people who will vote based on what has been given to them? Yes. But in 2015, if I'm sure you are aware that a lot of people took money from A, B, and C and voted for the person they wanted to vote for. And so it became a case of everybody giving money, which is not the ideal situation. Where we're headed back to, which is the place of glory, like I mentioned, is a place where people are voted into office based on antecedents, based on precedents, based on things that they have done that people have seen, based on things that they have done that people are proud of and are just looking for them to scale. So money is a factor, yes, because you have to print posters, you have to do things like that. There are innovative funding methods, both locally and internationally. But chief amongst them is the fact that we must share these stories. And I'm actually very pleased, that the chief whip is here today, because we must share these stories. We must bolster the confidence in young people that you don't need to have all the money. What you need to have is a track record of excellence. And across the length and breadth of this country, there are thousands and thousands of youth who are championing innovation and who are ready to take position and scale these efforts. It's not about starting afresh, it's about scaling things that they're already doing.
Dealing with political lockups, the example that Adodogowa cited, you're having virtually the nepotism that, a man goes to the legislature or holds political office, and then he wants his own children to rather come in and so on and so forth. Plus, other socio-cultural issues. Are these likely to be inhibitions, and are there ways that young persons can begin to think of how they confront this?
In 2015, I know that in Lagos State, and I'm going to be very careful not to mention names, but in Lagos State, there was a certain person serving within, the federal, there was somebody who was a minister who wanted, allegedly, to install his son within the Lagos State House of Assembly, and people rejected it. There was violence, during those elections. There was ballot box snatching. There were so many things. But people rejected it. Why? Because he wasn't the choice of the people. So will there be obstacles and inhibitions and things like that as we go along? Definitely. But we're trusting in guidance from the people who have the experience, from people like, Honorable Dugua, for instance. We're trusting in book knowledge, in theoretical knowledge. We're also trusting in practical experience gained. And I think that we will surmount all of these challenges as we get to them one after the other. The thing that is chief is the state of mind, which is we love Nigeria, we are Nigeria, and all of these efforts are intended to create the Nigeria that we dream of, to create the Nigeria that we see in other countries and we want to be. So yes, we will face challenges, but we will surmount them easily.
All right, Chairman, thank you very much. Just before we go back to Jide Ojo again, we have tweets pouring in torrents. Isaac, that's the handle for this tweet. It says, won't mind knowing those senators who voted no. They should be the first to go. Then, that person that abstained, well, that's the way it's written here.
Cecilia Okoroma now says Nigerian youth's participation, starts with a reorientation of their minds, that patriotism, oneness, unity, and love for Nigeria is key.
Fumbi Matthew tweets, I find this topic very interesting. Nigerian leaders need to build trust because many youths are disengaged and they've lost confidence in the process. Perhaps the only guaranteed right we have in the government administration is the right to vote. The youth should they should grow in their mindset.
Yes, Sandro Peremi says, what about the big issue of godfatherism? How can the young people overcome that?
Kemba Chibuzo, that says, good morning, speaker's question. How many of the youth are involved in party formation and politics, and why don't they take part in local government elections?
Oladeji, it says, NTA, good morning, Nigeria. It's a good step to say the youth to participate in politics. We have the energy, but can some youth take the responsibility?
Ibrahim Amadurege tweets, the question will always be, are the youth ready? For the youths that are in power today, what have they done to better the lives of the others?
Okay, now from gospel ambassadors, the main problem has been that the older people refuse to mentor the young people and youth into political offices, they fear being displaced. And at this point, Kingsley, this issue of surmounting the hurdles, has resonated, even within us here. And the chairman has just said, look, that youth can handle that aspect of financing. Certainly an example from honorable member, and be reminded that the very man he was talking about had experience over the years from where he was judged, right? And it's called that youth don't have that such pedigree for you to be into standpoint to say, look, you are going to be a good product. So that's a lot of job to do. And I'd like Jide to come in here. How would these youths, handle, or surmount, as the chairman rightly said, surmount those hurdles if these laws are passed?
The paths are very clear, but are they willing to take those paths? The path of sacrifice, building social capital, volunteerism. You see, this is what has worked magic in other climes.
That's right, good points.
This is what has worked magic in those climes. The 39-year-old Macron that became the president of France early this year didn't just jump in at 39. He was involved much earlier, served in different administrations, was a minister, resigned his ministerialship, formed his own party in March, and built a phenomenon, a movement. In fact, March was not even taken to be a political party because it broke from the ranks, from the establishment. So you need to create a clear path for yourself. As a youth, who possibly just got out of the university and wants to run for elections, what you need to do is to have behind you volunteers so that you don't end up in the lion's den of godfathers who are willing to put their resources down for you but made you to sign undertaking that will enslave and compromise your integrity. So the examples that were shared from Conservative, Tony Lee of Conservative Party and Kate Osama yesterday was very instructive. They hammered on this issue of volunteerism, building social capital, networking. These are things that can demonetize politics. Because once you have a very good network, and I hope somebody like Choma will not just be a strategist, but will be an actor. Because the youth you are advocating for many a time are disorientated.
Maladjusted.
They don't even share the views of those who are agitating, those who are advocating for their own welfare. And if you don't take the gauntlet yourself, those of you who envisioned this and who knew A to Z of what you want, where you want to be. Because I'm sorry to take us back a little. Between 1993 nullification of June 12 election and 1999, when we returned to democracy, look at the number of pro-democracy activists that actually took part in the electioneering process. Now they are lamenting. We only could cite 2-3 names that got involved. So if those who were active in the pro-democracy race were actually en masse also participated in the electoral process, possibly it will have been a lot better than what we have now.
Joe, thank you very much. But that last point he just raised, don't forget a number of the political actors had also been wounded, during the transition political arrangements of the late General Sani Abacha. If you remember the 5 fingers on the leprosy, and so on and so forth. A number of them had been exhausted completely, and they were not sure what was going to happen. But Chairman, just to get your closing thoughts, very briefly, for a few seconds. Look, we talked about our national attitude, short-termism, shortcut, and the fact that, look, you need to build networks and so on and so forth. These are not matters that can be fixed very quickly. Are young persons ready to go this route?
Yes. Young people are ready to learn, and to be honest, I think that I've learned quite a bit from sitting on this panel today. And I must thank you again for having me, and I must thank the Chief Whip for speaking very honestly, not just about his experiences, but about the experiences of others. And I think this is the intergenerational transfer that needs to happen. This is the exchange of knowledge and exchange of experiences and exchange of stories that needs to happen, so that you're not leaving a vacuum, so that there's learning that goes on and goes on.
Thank you very much.
That's Chioma Chuka, Strategy Team Manager Not too young to run. Thank you for being
Strategy
part of
team member.
Strategy team
There's
member.
a whole coalition of us.
All right. That's, congratulations.
Thank
first
you.
step, and we're looking forward to the other
And
stages.
let's hope that the bill will be passed.
No, we have the assurance of the chief whip. It's going to happen.
Well, the chief whip has only one vote, by the way.
He's helping us lobby his members.
Didi Ojo, public affairs analyst, always a delight having you. Good morning, Nigeria. And veteran lawmaker, Honorable Al Hassan Ado Dogowa, who was there.
Young lawmaker.
Thank you. Of course, it's the chief whip of the House of Representatives. Thank you for being here with us on the program today. It's Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service still. We move on now to our complimentary segments. Kieran, we're taking sports.
Yes, we're told that Coach